During a family vacation, my parents told me to give up my hotel room because my brother needed it more. When I refused, my mom snapped, "Stop being selfish, he's more important." My brother smirked, "Yeah, deal with it." Furious, I booked a luxury suite with my own money. The next morning, they banged on my door, panicked. Something had gone horribly wrong with their reservation. I never thought a single family vacation could be the thing that finally severed me from them for good. I mean, I always knew where I stood. On the sidelines, second to my brother, the backup, the afterthought. But that trip was the first time I saw the truth so plainly that there was no going back. It started like this. My parents called me up one evening in late June, practically giddy about this family bonding opportunity. "It's been years since we all took a trip together," my mom had said over the phone. "We're thinking Miami. It'll be fun, just like old times." That should have been my first warning sign. There were no good, old times when it came to family vacations. Every single one had been the same. Damien, my older brother, getting the best of everything while I was expected to go along with whatever scraps were left. Still, against my better judgment, I agreed. Maybe it was a STPID, lingering hope that things would be different now that we were all older. Maybe I just wanted to believe that I had a real place in this family. The plan was simple. My parents, Damien, his wife Olivia, and their 2 kids were all flying in from New York. I lived in Chicago, so I booked my own flight. That should have been the second red flag. Unlike Damien, I wasn't included in the main booking, but I brushed it off. When we arrived at the hotel, things seemed normal enough. I checked in and was surprised to find that, for once, I had my own room. It was nothing fancy, but it was mine. No sharing, no sleeping on the couch while Damien got a king-sized bed. I was genuinely shocked. That lasted less than 24 hours. That evening, just as I was settling in, there was a sharp knock at my door. I opened it to find my mom standing there, her expression overly pleasant in that way that always meant she was about to ask me to sacrifice something. "Hey, sweetie," she said, stepping in like she already owned the place. "We need to talk about the sleeping arrangements." I sighed. "What about them?" She sat on the edge of the bed, smoothing the covers like she was already picturing someone else in it. "So, there's been a little issue. Damien's room isn't quite big enough for him, Olivia, and the kids. And well, since you're here alone, we thought it made more sense for you to switch rooms with them." I stared at her. "You thought?" She clasped her hands together, smiling tightly. "Yes, you're just one person, and they're a family. They need the space more than you do." And there it was. I folded my arms. "So let me get this straight. You want me to give up my room, the one I was assigned, to Damien and Olivia? Where am I supposed to sleep?" "Oh, you can take their room. It's a little smaller, but you won't even notice the difference." I raised an eyebrow. "Smaller how?" There was the briefest hesitation before she said, "Well, it doesn't have a bed." I let out a short laugh, but she didn't. "You're serious?" "It has a pull-out couch," she said quickly. "And you're young, it won't be a big deal." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Why didn't Damien book a bigger room in the first place? She waved a hand like I was being ridiculous. It's not his fault the hotel had limited availability. So, because he didn't plan ahead, I'm supposed to give up my room? She blinked, as if she didn't understand why I was still arguing. "Yes, it's the right thing to do." The words left her mouth so naturally, like it wasn't even a question. Like my role in this family had always been to give, while Damien took without a second thought. For the first time in my life, something inside me snapped. "No," her face twitched. "Excuse me." I said no, I repeated. "I'm not giving up my room." Her expression darkened. "Stop being selfish." And then, without hesitation, she added the words that sealed everything. "He's more important than you." The way she said it, so final, so absolute, it sent a slow, burning rage through me. It wasn't news to me. I'd always known it, deep down. But to hear it out loud? That changed everything. Before I could even process what to say, Damien appeared in the doorway. He had that smirk on his face, the same one he'd worn our entire childhood whenever he got something I didn't. "Yeah," he said, arms crossed. "Deal with it." Something cold and sharp settled in my chest. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just turned, grabbed my wallet, and walked straight to the front desk. "Hi," I said, giving the receptionist my best customer service smile. "I'd like to upgrade my room." 10 minutes later, I had the key to a luxury suite. Ocean view, king-sized bed, room service, and most importantly, not a single trace of my family. The next morning, the banging on my door started early. I ignored it. Then came my mother's voice, shrill and frantic. "Please open the door." Curiosity got the best of me. I opened it, and there they were, my mom, my dad, Damien, Olivia, and 2 very cranky, very confused children. "We have a huge problem," my dad said, rubbing his temples. "The hotel messed up our reservation." I leaned against the doorframe. "Oh, they overbooked," my mom groaned. "Our room is gone. We don't have anywhere to stay." I blinked. Slowly, a grin spread across my face. "So," I said, enjoying the HLL out of this moment. You're saying that if I had given up my room, I would have ended up without a place to stay? My mom's jaw tightened. Damien looked furious. Olivia looked exhausted. Well, I sighed dramatically. That's rough. Hope you guys figure it out. We need your room. My mom snapped, dropping all pretense. I laughed. Oh, HLL no. You're really going to let your own family suffer? Suffer. I repeated, raising an eyebrow. You're at a 5-star hotel in Miami. Book another room. There aren't any more rooms. Damien barked. I shrugged. Sounds like a you problem. The silence stretched between us. My mother's face was a storm of emotions. Anger, disbelief, fury. My dad wouldn't even look at me. Olivia whispered something to the kids, trying to keep them calm. And Damien? Oh, Damien looked like he wanted to throw me off the balcony. But I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one being pushed aside. So I stepped back, gave them a little wave, and shut the door in their faces. For once, they could figure it out. And as I climbed back into my plush, king-sized bed, I realized something. This was the first vacation I'd ever actually enjoyed. And it wasn't even over yet. For the first time in my life, I had power in this family dynamic, and it was intoxicating. I stretched out on the crisp hotel sheets, letting out a deep breath as the muffled sound of my mother's voice faded beyond the door. They had expected me to cave, expected me to let them walk all over me like I always had. Not this time. I spent the next few hours enjoying the perks of my suite. Room service, a long hot shower, even flipping through channels on the giant flat screen just because I could. But a small, nagging voice in the back of my head told me that this wasn't over. My family had never been the kind to just accept when things didn't go their way. And I was right. Around noon, I decided to go down to the pool. As I stepped out of the elevator, I spotted my parents and Damien in the lobby, huddled together in an intense conversation. My mother's face was pinched with frustration, my dad was rubbing his temples like he had a migraine, and Damien just looked pissed. They hadn't noticed me yet, so I took my time walking past, enjoying the feeling of being completely unbothered. But just as I reached the door to the pool area, I heard my name. Are you really going to act like this? My mother called out. I turned slowly, sunglasses perched on my nose, iced coffee in hand. Act like what exactly? Like a spoiled brat, Damien snapped. I let out a sharp laugh. I'm spoiled. That's rich, coming from the guy who tried to take my room. Damien took a step forward, and for a second, I thought he might actually try to intimidate me. But then, in a rare show of restraint, he exhaled sharply and ran a hand through his hair. Look, you've made your point. You're mad. We get it. But are you seriously going to let your parents sleep in the hotel lobby? I blinked. Excuse me. My mother sighed dramatically. The hotel gave us a refund, but they don't have any open rooms. We tried calling other places, but everything is booked. And now, because of you, we don't have anywhere to stay. I scoffed. Because of me? Yes, she snapped. If you had just listened to me from the beginning, we wouldn't be in this mess. There it was. The classic manipulation. The refusal to ever take accountability. I shook my head, laughing under my breath. So let me get this straight. You guys didn't plan properly, assumed I'd just roll over and let you walk all over me. And now that your plan backfired, you're blaming me? Damien clenched his jaw, and my dad finally spoke. Look, we're not here to argue. We just need a solution. I crossed my arms. And let me guess, the solution is me giving up my suite, right? Nobody answered. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Yeah, that's not happening. My mother's nostrils flared. You are so selfish. Selfish. I cut her off, my voice sharper now. You've spent my entire life treating me like I was less important than Damien. Every vacation, every holiday, every decision. He gets first pick, and I get whatever's left. And now, for the first time, I have something you want, and suddenly, I'm the bad guy. A heavy silence settled between us. My mother's face was red with frustration. Damien looked like he wanted to strangle me, and my dad. Well, my dad just looked tired. Fine, my mom finally said, voice clipped. If you want to act like this, don't expect us to include you in anything else. I almost laughed at how ridiculous that sounded. Include me? Mom, let's be real. You guys don't include me in anything unless you need something. She turned on her heel without another word, storming off toward the hotel entrance. Damien shot me one last glare before following, and my dad, true to form, just sighed and trudged after them. I watched them go, shaking my head. This was supposed to be a vacation, but at this rate, it was turning into something else entirely. And I had a feeling the worst was yet to come. I spent the rest of the afternoon by the pool, sipping cocktails and enjoying the Miami sun while my phone sat untouched on the lounge chair beside me. I knew they'd call again. I knew the guilt tripping wasn't over. But for once in my life, I didn't care. By the time I went back up to my suite, the hotel lobby was quieter. No sign of my family. Part of me thought, maybe they found another hotel. Maybe they finally realized I wasn't going to budge. But that would have been too easy. As I stepped out of the elevator and turned down the hallway, I noticed something strange. Sitting against the wall, right outside the door to my suite, was Olivia. She was alone, legs stretched out, arms crossed, head tilted back against the wall. As soon as she saw me, she let out a dramatic sigh. "Oh, thank God," she muttered. "I was starting to think you weren't coming back." I frowned. "What the HLL are you doing here?" She pushed herself up and dusted off her jeans. "Waiting for you. Can we talk?" I didn't answer right away. Olivia and I had never been close. She was polite, sure, but there was always this unspoken understanding between us. Damien came first. If it was ever between me and him, she'd always take his side. Still, something about the way she stood there, her usual cool demeanor gone, made me hesitate. I sighed, unlocking the door. "Fine, but I'm not giving you the room, if that's what this is about." She stepped inside, glancing around. "Damn," she muttered, taking in the suite. "No wonder you're holding on to this." I ignored the comment and dropped onto the couch. "What do you want?" She hesitated. Then, in a voice much softer than I expected, she said, "Damien is losing his mind over this." I rolled my eyes. "Of course he is. He's not used to not getting his way," she said. I let out a short laugh. "Yeah, no kidding." She sat down across from me. "Look, I'm not here to convince you to give up the room. Honestly, I wouldn't either. But I do need you to know that this isn't just about Damien throwing a tantrum. Your mom is." She stopped, choosing her next words carefully. "She's taking this really hard." I frowned. "Hard how?" "She's acting like you just abandoned the family." I let out a slow breath, rubbing my temples. Of course she was. My mother had always been a master at playing the victim. I could already picture it. Her sitting in some uncomfortable chair in the lobby, hands wringing in her lap, sighing loudly so that every passing stranger could see how much she was suffering. "She told Damien she thinks you hate them," Olivia continued. I blinked. That part was unexpected. Hate them? No. Frustrated? Yes. Tired of being treated like a second-class family member? Absolutely. "She keeps saying she doesn't understand how you could do this to her," Olivia went on. "Which, to be honest, I don't get either. She has to know how unfair she's been to you." I scoffed. "You'd think. But no, she genuinely believes I'm the problem." Olivia was quiet for a long moment. Then, in a voice just above a whisper, she said, "You're not wrong, you know." I looked up at her. She exhaled, shaking her head. "About how they treat you. I've seen it. I don't know. I guess I always assumed you were used to it." I stared at her. Was I used to it? Yes. But did that make it okay? No. "Do you know what your husband said to me?" I asked, my voice colder now. "Yeah, deal with it." Like I was some random stranger inconveniencing him. Like it wasn't my damn room to begin with. She winced. "He was being a DCK, I know." I shook my head. "No, Olivia. He wasn't being a DCK. He was being himself." She sighed, rubbing her temples. "Yeah, he was." Something in her voice caught my attention. Something off. I studied her carefully. "Why are you really here?" She hesitated. "Olivia," I pressed. She exhaled sharply. "Because I can't listen to them anymore. I needed a break." I frowned. "From what?" She hesitated again. Then, finally, she said, "From your mom. From Damien. From this whole mess." She gestured around the suite. "Honestly, I came up here hoping I could convince you to talk to her. But after hearing how she's twisting this into you being the villain." She scoffed. "I don't blame you for ignoring them." I leaned back, processing her words. Olivia was always on Damien's side. Always. But now, she almost sounded tired. I narrowed my eyes. "Are you and Damien okay?" She let out a short, humorless laugh. "We're fine." She said it too quickly. I tilted my head. "Are you?" Her jaw tightened, but she didn't answer. Instead, she stood up. "I should get back before they start sending search parties for me." I didn't stop her, but as she reached the door, she hesitated. Then, without looking at me, she muttered, "For what it's worth, I think you're right to stand your ground." And then she was gone. I sat there for a long time after she left, my mind racing. Something was off. Something was very off. And I had a feeling this wasn't just about my damn hotel room anymore. I didn't see my family for the rest of the day, and honestly, it was bliss. I ordered room service, watched the sunset from my private balcony, and even treated myself to a massage at the hotel spa. But Olivia's words lingered in my mind. She wasn't just tired of the situation. She was tired of Damien. That was a shift I hadn't expected. The next morning, I took my time getting ready. If they wanted to act like I'd abandoned them, I might as well enjoy myself. But just as I was about to head out for breakfast, my phone buzzed. A text from my dad. "Dad, come downstairs. We need to talk." I debated ignoring it, but something told me this was going to be the conversation, the one where they tried to guilt-trip me one last time. "Fine. Let's finish this." I found them at a small corner table in the hotel's cafe. My mother looked exhausted, my dad had his arms crossed, and Damien looked like he was ready to break something. Olivia was sitting next to him, but she wasn't touching him, wasn't even looking at him. Interesting. I pulled out the chair across from them and leaned back. "So," I said, taking a sip of the coffee I'd just ordered, "to what do I owe the pleasure?" My mother exhaled dramatically. "Can you stop acting like you're enjoying this?" I raised an eyebrow. I'm enjoying this. Damien scoffed, shaking his head. Jesus, you're such a… Olivia placed a hand on his arm, cutting him off. Let's just talk, she said, her voice unusually firm. That caught me off guard. Olivia never interrupted Damien. Never. I glanced at her, but she wasn't looking at me. Something was definitely wrong there. My dad was the first to break the silence. Listen, he said, his voice calmer than I expected. This has gone too far. We're family. We shouldn't be fighting like this. I let out a short laugh. Oh, now we're family. His jaw tightened. We just want to fix this. Your mother is upset. Damien is furious. And Olivia, he paused, glancing at her, but she was stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. Look, we just want you to understand that this whole situation could have been avoided if you'd been a little more flexible. There it was. The same old message. You should have bent over for Damien. You should have sacrificed for the greater good. This is your fault. I smirked. Let me ask you something, Dad. If the situation were reversed, if Damien had the last room, and I had nowhere to sleep, would you have asked him to give it up for me? Silence. Damien let out an annoyed sigh, but my dad didn't answer. Because we all knew the truth. I thought so. I said, standing up. Enjoy the rest of your stay? Oh, wait. You don't have a stay. Damien slammed his fist on the table, making the silverware jump. You BTCH, you think this is funny? I blinked at him. Oh, I know it's funny. And then, before I could turn to leave, Olivia spoke. Damien, she said softly. We all turned to her. She exhaled slowly and placed her napkin on the table. I'm done. Damien frowned. What? She looked up, her expression eerily calm. I said I'm done. He let out a short, confused laugh. What the HLL does that mean? She reached into her purse, pulled out her phone, and slid it across the table to him. It means I canceled your credit cards this morning. Silence. Dead, suffocating silence. Damien blinked. You what? Olivia sat back in her chair, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen her. Every last one of them. The ones I pay for anyway. My mother gasped. Olivia, that's your husband. Olivia turned to her, eyes sharp. And you raised a man who can't function without everyone else bending over backwards for him. I nearly choked on my coffee. Damien's face went red. You can't just… I can. Olivia interrupted smoothly. And I did. I also called the airline and changed my flight. She stood up, grabbing her purse. The kids and I are leaving tonight. Damien shot out of his seat. You're not serious. Olivia met his gaze, unflinching. I've never been more serious in my life. My mother was pale. Olivia, you don't mean this. But Olivia didn't even look at her. She turned to me instead. Can I talk to you alone for a second? I was too stunned to say anything, so I just nodded and followed her a few feet away. She exhaled. Look, I know we're not close. And I know I stood by while Damien and your parents treated you like crap. She hesitated. But watching you stand up for yourself made me realize something. I waited. She swallowed. I've spent years making excuses for him. Years pretending it wasn't that bad. But it is that bad. And I can't do it anymore. I studied her carefully. She wasn't lying. I nodded slowly. So what now? She shrugged. Now? I go home, get a lawyer, and make sure my kids never grow up thinking this kind of behavior is normal. I glanced back at the table, where Damien was still in shock, my parents frantically whispering to him. Then I turned back to Olivia. You're braver than I thought, I said honestly. She let out a short, bitter laugh. No, I'm just tired. I gave her my number and told her to keep in touch. She nodded, gave me one last look, and walked away. I turned back to the table, where my parents were still reeling from what just happened. Well, I said, grabbing Damien's untouched coffee and taking a sip. I'd say this trip was a success, wouldn't you? Damien looked ready to lunge at me, but I just smiled and walked away. I didn't look back. I had finally won. A few months later, I got a text from Olivia. Olivia, officially divorced. Got full custody. Damien's living in a studio apartment with no credit and no savings. Mom and Dad are blaming me for breaking up the family. LOL. I smiled. Me. Tell them to deal with it. The reply came almost instantly. Olivia, El Mayo. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly, completely free.